Happy Wednesday, my dear friends. We've made it to the midpoint of the week, and living under a fascist regime, that is a cause for applause and celebration. You've made it here. The breaking news is honestly, it's just breathtaking. The Wall Street Journal, which is currently being sued by Donald Trump, and just to remind you, the Wall Street Journal is no one's left leaning news outlet. It's no one's left leaning rag. It's run by Rupert Murdoch and is being sued by Donald Trump for, saying that he authored a card uh, to Jeffrey Epstein with a cartoon drawing, to which Trump responded last week, "I never draw." Meanwhile, there's always proof, but it doesn't matter because he's a sociopath and just a compulsive fucking liar. Nonetheless, the breaking news from today, though, from just like an hour ago, pretty fucking good. So, without further ado, dear friends, welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Let's get into it. My, what a tangled web this fascistic regime is creating. I mean, everywhere you look. What I find so great about this moment, and like I said, this is little fissures, little fractures that are happening that are to show us that Donald Trump is not invincible, that he is not Teflon Don, that things, oh, look at my hair, that things do come back to him, that the dam can, in fact, be chiseled through and be broken. Y'all, just a few hours ago, breaking Wall Street Journal, the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is in the Epstein files. Many other high-profile figures were also named. Trump was told. Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. Bondi also told President at the meeting that Justice decided not to release more Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. Before I dig into this article, which, hold on, I will say this. So the Wall Street Journal is behind a paywall, and it's why Waj and I always talk about the fact that we don't put our content behind a paywall, because that's where information dies. That's where democracy dies. If you choose and have the ability to pay, then by all means, please, thank you. The Wall Street Journal did not put this article behind a paywall. Okay. So let's dive in. When Justice Department officials reviewed that Attorney General Pam Bondi called a, quote, truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. They're good for saying that because, the law. The officials said it was a routine briefing that recovered a number of topics and that Trump's appearance in the document wasn't the focus. Who are you lying to? Like, in all honesty, who are you lying to? Your entire rabid base is all hopped up on Jeffrey Epstein conspiracies that you, Donald Trump, have been feeding to them for over a decade. So you think that the fact that his name shows up in these files, and the fact that we also know that there were Excel spreadsheets that were made so that folks could clock how many times Donald Trump's name showed up and on what page they showed up. Do you think that we're sitting around here thinking to myself, well, it's probably only a couple of times, because you know what I don't need an Excel spreadsheet for? Things that I can count on my two hands. Anything outside of that, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should input the data, input the information into something so I can keep track because it's so numerous. Just a little thought there. They told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. That's a good euphemism. Some of the officials said, one of the officials familiar with the documents said they contain hundreds of other names. Hundreds. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and victims' personal information. So here's my thing, y'all. Here's my thing about this. There's redaction for a reason. You redact names of people so that no one knows who they are. We redact things all the time when they are released to the public to preserve people's innocence, to preserve their identity, X, Y, and Z. This is nothing new. No one is asking for the government, Trump's regime, to unload a treasure trove of child pornography out into the world and out into the internet. No one is saying that. What they are saying is that the information that is in there, right, that isn't about quote unquote innocent people and victims, the public should be able to see. Everything else can be redacted. But again, I'll say that if Donald Trump's name was only mentioned a handful of times, you wouldn't have need teams of people to keep track in an Excel file and a drive that everyone had the ability to access so that you knew how many times and on what pages he was mentioned. The fact is that Donald Trump had told his base for a decade that there was a Democratic pedophilia cabal, and that when he was president, he was going to get to the root of it, but he was going to root out the deep state. Well, the Wall Street Journal just said there are hundreds of other people, elite people's names that are associated. So something tells me that, again, if Donald Trump is not releasing that information, right, that he said he was going to have the information of folks inside of the deep state, he was going to undo this Democratic pedophilia cabal, something tells me that the number of people who are mentioned didn't impact him in the way that his own name did over and over and over again. So for Donald Trump to decide that he wasn't going to release them, even though he could have potentially implicated a whole bunch of Democrats, says a lot. But take a listen to how he's distracting. Everything is working against me as I fight for my life with a cough.
What we found is even more so. Now, we found absolute, this isn't like evidence, or this is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious, that Obama was trying to lead a coup. And it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people, but Obama headed it up. And, I get a kick.
This is the distraction, right? This is what you're hearing now from bobblehead Barbie over at the White House. This is what you're hearing from senators when they're asked about Epstein. It's like, oh, Obama. And they're like, yeah, that's not what we're talking about. And the reason being is because of reporting like this that keeps coming out. Because, folks, when was the last time that a negative story about Donald Trump had this type of hold over the media? Think about it. When was the last time over 10 years that a negative story about Donald Trump had this kind of foothold and continued for weeks on end? If I'm counting, I'm thinking that we're at week, I don't know, 1, 2, like what week are we in of all of this right now? Like this is my thing, is that we're in this moment where if Donald Trump had all the goods on people in the Democratic Party, enough to take the Democratic Party down, don't you think that he would? Don't you think that if he was totally and completely innocent and he could tell his Justice Department, here's the deal, I'm not implicated. I may be in here because, like people know, I was friends with him. I did hang out with him. Bop, 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 bop. But I wasn't engaged in any of his sex trafficking. I wasn't engaged with underage girls. Don't you really think that Donald Trump would miss an opportunity to bring down the Democrats with what would be seen as like the most atrocious and terrible and horrible thing that you could ever possibly do, which is harm a child, have sex with a child? You think that if he had that at his fingertips, it would be the nail in the coffin for the entire party. So you're telling me that they have that information, again, as the Wall Street Journal said, of hundreds of names, including Donald Trump's, but they're not going to release it? Folks, let me tell you, I am not a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm a person that makes sense out of nonsense. That's my job. None of this makes sense. None of it. Donald Trump would be seen as the savior, as a hero. There would be nothing that Democrats could say for decades about any wrongdoing if you could implicate however many people, a part of the Democratic establishment linked to Jeffrey Epstein. But like I have been saying, this sex trafficking ring, bipartisan. I guarantee you that there are as many Democrats as there are Republicans, that there are as many CEOs as there are industry leaders, as that there are as many elite people and donors, et cetera, that are all caught up in this shit. And it wasn't worth it for Donald Trump for the ability to potentially bring down some of his Democratic foes because it would catch him out too fucking much. That's how you know. That's how you know that everything that he is doing right now is 1000% a distraction. Because if it was going to prove to be a win for Donald Trump and MAGA to hold on to all of their power, there is not a station that you could turn on. There is not a Truth Social post that he wouldn't be putting out every 5 seconds. He is dirty. He is implicated. Allegedly. But what shows you anything about Donald Trump in these past 10 years that thinks that if he had the goods on people, that he would give them a pass? I don't think so. And so you have things like this being projected onto the White House. Trump, because I refuse to say president, release all the Epstein files. And then, like I played the video, you have him now diverting to Barack Obama, trying to divert attention. And he said it. He said that, oh, whenever you mention Obama in the press, the cameras go this way. He literally said that today in the Oval Office, which tells you that it is all bullshit. Look at every single bouncing ball that I am throwing out so that you're not paying attention to what I'm really fucking doing. I'll let him continue so that You can hear Donald Trump in his own
Talks about
fucking
people I
words.
never even heard of. It was this one. No. It was Obama. He headed it up. And it says so right in the papers. Got everything. Got everything. This is the biggest scandal in the history of our country. And it really goes on to even the auto pen, because it all relates to the same thing. It all started the same sick minds. You have an auto pen, which is a tremendous, well, we don't have a president. We have an auto pen that signs everything. I'll bet you sign everything. You don't have auto pens.
He looks and sounds like a fool. But I want to tell you this, that right before I came on, Bobblehead Barbie got a question from the press corps, and I want you to listen to how she couldn't really respond. None of this is working the first time around. Mercury is in retrograde. We're going to roll with it. Hold, please. Here we go.
To talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. I know that Todd Blanchard mentioned that earlier this week.
The president spoke to this yesterday, and he said he thinks it's an appropriate idea. Kelly.
What is the accountability that you would like to see if this current president is the one who brought the case to the Supreme Court and Chief Justice Roberts made clear in his opinion that a sitting president's responsibilities in office cannot lead to prosecution, immunity? So what is it the President Trump wants regarding President Obama, given that fact? And the special counsel at the time, Durham, when that Supreme Court matter was not in effect, could have charged anyone and did not. So on those 2 points, how do you respond?
Look, the president has made it clear that he wanted these documents to be declassified. He wanted the American people to see the truth, and now he wants those who perpetuated these lies in this scandal to be held accountable. As for what accountability looks like, as the director said, it's in the Department of Justice's hands, and we trust them to move this ball forward.
But you would agree
Stephanie.
President Obama cannot be charged based on that immunity?
Again, I'll leave that to the Department of Justice.
She'll leave what to the Department of Justice? It is Trump's MAGA Supreme Court that gave presidents immunity for anything that they do while they're in office. So basically, what the reporter, Susan, is asking is saying, well, before the Supreme Court sided with Donald Trump and gave him full immunity, all of this information was out there. Why wasn't Barack Obama prosecuted then? She's like, but now, if in fact he's saying that there isn't evidence, there's proof. Isn't evidence proof? But let me not give myself a bigger headache than I already have by trying to do the mental gymnastics that Donald Trump wants us to do. The fact is, you played yourself. Because even if Obama broke the law, which he didn't, and we all know it, your Secretary of State, when he was on the Senate Intel Committee, did the reporting himself, bipartisan. There was no changing of votes in 2016. There was an influence by Russia, but there was no changing of the votes. So you're out here calling this man seditious, knowing good goddamn well, guess what? He can't actually be prosecuted if, in fact, your bold-faced lie was the truth. So bravo, you fucking dummy. You played yourself. It gets better, y'all. Because poll numbers came out as well. So you want to know why Donald Trump is throwing everything? He's playing every single one of his greatest hits. He's throwing everything at the wall. Is because no one fucking likes him. And my God, this video from CNN is it's breathtaking. And I can't wait for you to take a listen, because for the love of God, you can't get better than this.
So the president says things are great. What do the voters say?
No.
I think, is the answer. 6 months in, the rules of political gravity absolutely apply to Donald Trump, and the USS Donald Trump is taking on a lot of water. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating. Look, he started off back in January +6 points on the net approval rating, -3 in March, -7 in May, and now he's at a term too low at -11 points. His net approval rating has dropped nearly 20 points in the aggregate since the beginning of his presidency. The American people do not like what they're seeing, and Donald Trump's administration is in a ton of trouble at this point in the minds of the American voters.
Well, on what issues do the American voters seem to disapprove of him?
They disapprove of him on all of the issues. He's underwater on all the major issues of the day. Trump's net approval rating on all the major issues, -5 points on immigration, his best issue. He's underwater. How about the economy? That was what he was elected for. -14 points. How about foreign policy? -14 points. How about trade and those tariff wars? -15 points. And of course, the Epstein case, the lowest of the bunch, -37 points, 37 points below water. My goodness gracious. On every single issue, Donald Trump is below water on all the major ones. They're all dragging him down. No matter, it seems, what Donald Trump does, the American people do not like it. And that is why, at this particular point, he's at a term too low.
It's interesting because this is the issue that may be on the top of many people's minds as members of Congress head home for this extended summer recess.
And it's his worst one.
I'm not sure that House members will be excited to see that number as they leave Washington today. So where does his overall approval rating stand compared to other presidents?
Okay, I do have one piece of good news for Donald Trump, and that there
Wait
is
for
one
it.
other presidency that has a lower net approval rating at this point than this one. The bad news is that it was Donald Trump's other presidency, his first presidency, net approval rating 6 months in. The worst was in 2017. Donald Trump was 16 points underwater. The second worst, however, is this Donald Trump presidency, 11 points underwater. The average president at this point since 1953 has a +27 net approval rating. John, do some quick math with me. It seems to me that Donald Trump is about 40 points lower than the average president at this particular point. He has the second worst net approval rating at this point. He is underwater on all the major issues of the day. The bottom line is 6 months into this administration, I think that most Americans would apply the word or words disaster, terrible, awful, horrible. I think that is the way that the American people would see it at this particular point. He is so far below underwater compared to the average president. The only one he beats out is him in term number one. And I don't think that's exactly the metric he wants to be applying to himself.
I have never seen a broadcast like that talking about polls. I was cackling the first time that I watched it, and I had to watch it again and again and again. He is underwater on everything, everything. And the words horrible, awful, like disaster. It was so fucking good. So it brings you to where we find ourselves today. And I want to thank, because, while I was getting ready for the show, I said, what's going on with Donald Trump right now? Like, what's going on? Just so that you have more of a visual. So Trump losing ground on immigration, healthcare, government funding, education, foreign policy, trade, deportations, jobs in the economy. The only place that he's a little bit up is border security. But if you look at this below, when he said underwater, this is the visual that he is talking about. Donald Trump is in nowhere's fucking land. Okay. He is not only underwater on key issues, he's underwater in key states he won, friends. Trump's approval rating has taken a hit in key battleground states he narrowly won in 2024. Just a reminder, it was not a huge victory. It was not the American people giving him carte blanche over the country. No. In Michigan, where Trump edged out a victory by 2 points in November, his approval rating is slightly underwater. 48% of voters approve of his performance, while 49% disapprove. The drop is even sharper in Wisconsin, where Trump won by just 1 point in 2024, but now faces a 5-point deficit in approval. Just 46% of Wisconsin voters say they approve of the job that he's doing, while 51% disapprove. Folks, like, the fact is that Donald Trump is not doing well at all. And the person who I love right now, who is speaking so much truth to fucking power and saying all of the things that evidently Democrats, establishment Democrats, are too chicken shit to say. And look, you can say what you want, but this man right now in this interview, the clips that I have seen, yeah, he's about it.
Did you see the other day when Donald Trump pointed to the Declaration of Independence and said, you know, I'm against war. I think we could have saved 600,000 lives in the Civil War.
You look right up there. I don't know. See the Declaration of Independence, and I say, I wonder if the Civil War. It always seemed to me maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people.
As if there's a connection between the Declaration of Independence and the Civil War. But can you imagine my dad did that? Can you imagine if he opened up that treaty with the Prime Minister Starmer at the G7 in Canada and all the pages fell out, and then he said that he just signed a treaty with the European Union with the Prime Minister of the UK standing next to him? Can you imagine? And then if he got on a plane and said the reason that he was going home early from the G7 is because he had a major announcement the next day, and then the next day he put up a flagpole? Can you imagine any of those things?
So you're saying...
Where the fuck is Jake Tapper?
Where the fuck is Jake Tapper, right? The person who was all about holding the Biden administration accountable, the person that put out a bullshit book and then had to cancel his tour, right? Like, where the fuck is Jake Tapper? And Hunter Biden ain't pulling any punches anymore. He's not going to stay quiet for what? So the question is, what is Donald Trump up to? What is going on right now while he's throwing all of these bouncing balls out and while he's losing ground in battleground states and everyone fucking hates him and his poll numbers are in the goddamn toilet? What is he doing? This. Trump's DOJ wants states to turn over voter lists, election info. The sweeping requests raise fears about how the Trump administration plans to use this information. The U.S. Department of Justice is seeking the voter registration lists of several states. Oh, I wonder which ones. Representing data on millions of Americans and other election information ahead of the 2026 midterms, raising fears about how the Trump administration plans to use that information. Oh, I wonder how they're going to use it. I wonder if they're not going to, direct the Secretary of States of those states and say that these names are fraudulent and you need to purge them all. Or figure out how to infiltrate those states. The DOJ is demanding Colorado turn over all records related to the 2024 election, a massive trove of documents that could include ballots and even voting equipment. Oh, the voting equipment. And then they're going to do what? Just take a little look and then turn them back over? Y'all think we're stupid, right? Like, this is what pisses me off on a regular basis is how dumb they think that we are. At least 9 states have received requests for information over the past 3 months, according to letters from the Department of Justice obtained by Maine State Line. Some states also received emails from a Department of Justice official last week asking for meetings to discuss information sharing agreements. The department's focus on election comes after Trump directed Pam Bondi in March to seek information about suspected election crimes from state election officials and empowered her to potentially withhold grants and other funds from uncooperative states. What does that sound like to you? It sounds like mobster fucking mentality threatening these states that if you don't give up your voter rolls and your voting machines so that they can erase those people and tamper with those machines, then we're not going to fund you. Y'all, again, always pay attention to what is happening. Oh, this is what I meant to do, but I didn't upgrade my slides. So earlier, one of you all in the chat said, back to thinking now for a second about May. And Donald Trump finds out that he's in the Epstein files in May, right? They don't tell the public until July that they're not going to release the Epstein files, and essentially the case is closed. Someone in the chat said, and I was putting together the show, and I said, hold up, wait a minute. Let me pull up and see what was Donald Trump posting about during that time. And this is what was so fucking good, is that you always have to follow these timelines of fuckery and get to where you're like, so what was Donald Trump trying to distract us of back in May when he was doing, right, when he was finding out this information? And here's what it was. He was sharing a conspiracy theory alleging that President Biden was executed and replaced by clones. Y'all remember that? He was sharing memes, including one depicting himself with the text, "He's on a mission from God and nothing can stop what is coming," and another one featuring Pepe the Frog, posting an AI-generated image of himself as the Pope, leading to controversy and his claim of having no knowledge of its origin. Accusations against Harvard University, including demanding a list of foreign students and criticizing the institution for admitting students who, quote, want to tear the country apart. Those are just some of the fucking highlights of what Trump was doing to draw attention, to stir up controversy, while he found out the information that they wanted us to believe wasn't the focus of any meeting. This is probably the only meeting that you don't need to give Donald Trump some fucking crayons and a coloring book so that motherfucker pays attention. It is obscene. It is obscene. And to keep track of all of this is exhausting. But not as exhausting as what I'm about to show you. And for those that are sensitive to pictures depicting trauma, I'm giving you a warning right now. Because I'm going to transition while we're all consumed with what is happening in the United States with Donald Trump and how it's affecting every stretch of the world. There is a stretch of the world that isn't getting nearly as much goddamn attention as it should. So trigger warning for this photo. Israel is starving people to death. Israel is starving children to death. Israel is trying to convince the world that genocide is necessary for their safety. For I don't even know how many fucking decades, Israel has done its work to try and intertwine Zionism with Judaism. And they've done an incredible job. So much so that if you were to ever, and still to this day, articulate an opposing thought about the humanity of Palestinian people, you're labeled a terrorist and an anti-Semite. Right now, today, in the fucking New York Times, Bret Stephens has a bullshit think piece on why what's happening in Gaza isn't a genocide, because they've, quote, only killed 60,000 people. Do you understand what kind of sociopathic mind and how fucking depraved you have to be to put pen to paper to say some shit like that, to tell us not to believe our fucking eyes and our ears and tell us just instead to think that 60,000 people isn't enough people to be labeled as a genocide? Folks, I know that there are days where I can't take it. And the picture that I chose not to post because I thought it was too much was a skeletal picture of a child being held by their mother. That's what our tax dollars go to. And do you know who just fucking took a photo with Netanyahu? Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, leadership in the Democratic establishment recently. None of those people should be allowed to fucking hold power ever. You do not need a foreign affairs degree. You do not need to be an analyst. You do not need to have a heap of history to understand that starving people and then shooting them to death when they're trying to get flour to live isn't a fucking crime. So I will say this to you, to the hundreds of folks that are watching. Call your members of Congress. Call your fucking senators. Since they've all been sent home from the House because of chicken shit Mike Johnson and his fear for Democrats forcing a vote on Epstein, you fucking call them and tell them to put a stop to the genocide in Gaza, that it will not be done in your name and with your money. And you keep calling and you keep calling and you keep fucking calling. We cannot look away because it pains us, because it should pain us. Because a genocide is being live streamed to us. And there are people that are in power that are telling us that this is justified. How is that justified? 22 children have died of starvation in the last few days. 22. The Israeli government has killed more children in the last 2 years than in every war combined. They have literally killed the future. There is no justification for that. It shouldn't sit well with you. It should make you fucking sick. Sick enough to take action. Because if all that we can do is phone calls, if all that we can do is sit-ins, if all that we can do is marches, then we do that until we are exhausted. And even then, you get up and you keep fucking doing it. Because while I am talking about this, there is a children that is starving to death. There is a child that is going to die right in this moment. It is appalling. It is disgusting. And it should not be allowed to happen. More than 100 humanitarian organizations have signed a joint letter calling on Israel to restore the full flow of food, clean water, and medical supplies to Gaza. The death toll rises. At least 10 people have died from starvation in 24 hours, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza. On the ground, Gazans still face Israel's near-daily bombardment since the war began nearly 2 years ago. Yesterday, an Israeli airstrike killed at least 10 people, including a toddler and 2 other children. There is no justification. There is none. There is no sides when you are talking about disallowing a child food, medicine, clean water. Netanyahu is a fucking savage, and he is a criminal. And the prayer that I say on a regular basis is that these people will find theirs at some point. Evil doesn't last forever. And that's the thing that we have to remind ourselves of and push ourselves for, is that, oh, there's nothing you can do. You can do everything. Again, if the only thing that you do is to say, you know what, I'm going to schedule it. Every single day at this time of day, I'm making a call to my congressperson's office. I'm making a call to my senator's office. I'm calling the district offices every single day. Do that. I'm going to organize a letter writing campaign, and I'm going to drop those letters off. Do that. But whatever you do, do not allow yourself to become hopeless and believe that you don't have any power. Because no one would be trying to take your power. No one would be trying to shut you up. No one would be trying to get rid of truth tellers, shut down organizations, threaten presidents at universities, threaten students for activating their right to assemble, taking away people's right to free speech. They would not be working this hard if they were winning. And finally, today, I want to bring you this news, which is that the UN's top court says failing to protect planet from climate change could violate international law. The United Nations top court, in a landmark advisory opinion Wednesday, said countries could be in violation of international law if they fail to take measures to protect the planet from climate change, and nations harmed by its effects could be entitled to reparations. Advocates immediately cheered the International Court of Justice opinion on the nation's obligations to tackle climate change and the consequences they may face if they don't. The non-binding opinion, however, because this is the problem, but this is a start, okay? Every place has to start somewhere. The non-binding opinion, backed unanimously by the court's 15 judges, was hailed as a turning point in international climate law. Notably, the court said a, quote, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is a human right. That paves the way for other legal actions, including states returning to the ICJ to hold each other to account, as well as domestic lawsuits, along with legal instruments like investment agreements. Today, the tables have turned. They always say that things are impossible, dear friends, until they are done. Every act of resistance, every move towards freedom and equity begins with small steps. It is not about whether or not you are going to be able to eat the fruit of the seeds that you plant, but it is the fact that you plant those seeds so that someday someone will. We have got to remove our immediate need for our freedom, for our rights, and think about future generations, and think about this planet moving forward, and think about what we are showing our children when they see that other children are allowed to starve to death. Gaza is a mirror. It is a mirror to the world about what we are willing to collectively tolerate. Because if they can do it to Gazans, they can do it to you. Trust and believe, and they will. Folks, before I get out of here today, I want to thank you all so very much for your super stickers and your super thanks. And if you have yet to hit subscribe or like or comment on to this channel, please do so right now. I hit 28,000 followers and subscribers yesterday on YouTube. And it was a fantastic moment. And I was so excited to share it with all of you in the moment that it happened. You are the reasons why I show up each and every day and turn this microphone off, because there are some days when I just don't want to. But I know that there are groups of you, thousands of you, that are waiting to hear from me. And so I am so grateful for the community that you all are building, for the truth that you all are sharing, and for the support that you all are providing me. Thank you, Ernst. Thank you, Susan, as always. Daisy, thank you so much. Serenity, thank you. Rebecca, thank you for the 28. Symbolic, I love it. Susan, again, thank you. Ernst, again. Be best, LOL, thank you. Polly, thank you so much. Oh, for matching with the 28. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Susan, again. Stafford, Jimmy, Essie Wiggett. I appreciate each and every single dollar that you all send my way. This is independent media. It is people-powered media, and I don't take corporate money, and I don't put things behind paywalls, because I believe that we all deserve access to the truth. If you're watching this right now, K Panda, thank you for the Canadian cash. If you're watching this right now on Substack, please consider subscribing to my Substack. Again, all the content is free. And if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber at Substack and support my work monthly, please consider doing so. Folks, thank you all so incredibly much. I will be back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, to close out this week with you all. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.